Thank you, both of you, Stephen and Evan, for agreeing to chat with me. And I'd just like to also thank the elders of Darug land, past, present, and future, for this meeting. And I would just like to introduce you both, because you're both well-known researchers and archaeologists. So you've both, I think it's your father that's the archaeologist, sorry, or...
Oh no, we both do it together.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good, yeah. And I have been researching your both of your stuff for long. So I came across your work a few years back, actually, and because I was listening to a lot of Freeman's stuff online. Oh, yeah, and that's how I first found out about you guys. And then I thought it was very interesting at the time, but I didn't follow on further from that. And then obviously recently I attended the Alien Ancestry conference, which was really cool. It was really amazing to meet you both. So it was a really good experience for me, and it helped me a lot as well in terms of just meeting like-minded people and stuff like that, because a lot of the things that happened at that conference really triggered me. And I just wanted to thank you for the experience, basically. So yeah.
Pleasure. It was the last one we could have done for quite some time, so you were lucky to get to it.
Yeah. I know, I know.
We just scraped in there, hey?
I think if we come another 3 or 4 days later, it wouldn't have been on.
No.
I know. It was very lucky. Good timing, I guess.
Well, fortunate.
Yeah. So, we're going to try to do an online one
yes,
next.
I saw that, yes. I'm interested in attending that as well. So, and I'll be, sharing that around, definitely, because I believe in all of your works, like yours and Leah's and like James's and Brendan's, like everyone on the Lionel, like everybody on the team is like amazing. So yeah, definitely.
Pretty good lineup. I think we've assembled some good people together, and
what's that?
I think we've assembled some good people together for it. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
A range of different topics, and but it all, as you know, it has a bit of a theme, and it all flows from one.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Which is it's a bit different to have a theme, so and to have that flow on effect. So
yeah, that's good. So I did have so I'm, I guess, more on the spiritual aspects of things. So I kind of wanted to link what you guys have researched to the spiritual aspect, or I don't know what you would call it, but because I had been researching a lot, but I guess Valerie Barrow in my life sort of helped me realize the existence of extraterrestrials and their role, I guess, in history. And she comes from a different perspective, I guess. She because she's a channeler, so she's more like sort of also the spiritual aspect, I guess you would say. But that's something I guess I connected with, and I'm not a channeler. I mean, I kind of am, but like I'm just grounding myself into what exactly I'm trying to channel. But I'm just like I'm trying to say that it's more like a spiritual thing, I guess, or a starseed thing. I'm not really sure how to explain it, but I basically wanted to link, the knowledge that people have with extraterrestrials, which are like, you know, the Pleiadians and all those sort of races, the star races that people talk about, and then with your work as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can explain.
Well, the trick with this is when we go on the country, we're invited to go on the country first, and secondly, we go on to country understanding that in traditional society, before Cook and even after Cook, the major role, the major goal, I think, of most tribes was to understand the magical. It's considered known that every original person born on this country before Cook, I'm not saying after because that's not true, had some magic in them, and their role was to find that magic and understand what it meant. And of course, that now is considered rubbish. It's not taught in the schools, and it's not taught in the media, and it's not shown or discussed by supposed experts, so it doesn't exist. The problem with that is when you go on to a regional country, regardless of what the scientists and experts say about magic, that's not how the society works. So therefore, if you walk onto society with your clipboard and your funding, and you've been funded because you've already given them an answer that they've agreed to, and they've given you money to go and find that answer, then the very least you're going to see, the very most you're going to see is the window dressing. You'll never get to find out the importance of objects, because yes, the objects have a technical presentation, but they also have a spiritual presentation that will never be discussed.
In a way, they'll get the kindergarten version of what's going on.
Yeah. Well, not even that, because even when children, original children, are first taught slowly, the first level of 8 or 9 levels, that first level will still have a degree of spirituality in it. But when the archaeologist and the historian goes on the country, nearly always, I'm not saying completely, but nearly always, there's very little spirituality there. So therefore, they can't see the forest, they really can't see the trees, and all they're looking at is a few leaves, because they really haven't seen past that. So to say that you're interested in the mystical aspect of this story, well, the whole story is mystical, and then it's padded around pragmatic and physical things that we can see.
A good example of that is what we call the UFO engraving.
Oh, yeah.
When the first kind of researcher found it, he was told it was a whale. And yeah, it can look from a whale, but the deeper you look into that, who was it? Was it Unipen?
David Unipen.
The guy that's on the $50 note, our version of Leonardo da Vinci. He talked about them, that all whales are starborn. They come from, was it Pleiades?
They come from, well, the story he gave, David Unipen went to carry on, spoke to the elders, and learnt the stories. The whales were the carriers of beings. Like everything's, all of these stories have a totem, right? For example, the Goanna, we know the story about that, and they're the wisdom keepers, and they come from the Pleiades. So every one of these beings, and I remember the story we read about the star beings, when they all come to this earth, they couldn't speak to each other. And that's how hand signs began. Because these beings came from different places and they didn't know the language, they had to find something together to put them together. Now that comes out of David Unipen, who's on the $50 note. And that is his version of his culture. But the funny part is, even though he's on the $50 note, how many people know that story about him? And the answer is nobody. They know that he probably invented the shears and the helicopter and all those things. He did all that. Okay, we know that. But they don't know that he also told us in dreaming stories that the star people came from someone else when they first come here. They couldn't communicate with each other, let alone others. But that part of the mystical part of original history, that gets lost in the wash-up, always. So yeah, we try to cover both. And when we do presentations, as you know, we actually rotate between scientific and mystical. And we try and let those people who are very scared of the mystical, we warn them, the two things are separate, and you can look at one and say, okay, you've proved that's not right. And what we say to a lot of people is, we can prove to you that mainstream narratives are wrong. We can't be absolutely sure that we're right, but we are absolutely sure that they're wrong. And that's probably why we get attacked so often by them. And they always attack, of course, our theories. What they never address.
Oh, our hair. They love attacking our hair.
Oh, God. And the fact that I'm an aging hippie, that one gets done constantly, the aging hippie.
Oh, no, really? That's horrible. Oh my
You
God.
might get called that a lot.
Yeah.
Now,
Oh.
what people have got to understand is that around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, humans broke up not into races, but into lifestyles. And before that time, everyone lived as a hunter-gatherer, collector. And let's get this straight. Original people farmed. People don't get this. That when Mitchell and others came to the flats of New South Wales, they saw bales of hay stacked and flat fields.
Just look into Bruce Pascoe.
Look at Bruce Pascoe's work. It's well known they farmed. In fact, the oldest grinding stone with grinding grains inside it is about 18,000 years old. It's not found in Europe. It's found in Australia. Now, what they did is they farmed something called nardoo seed. And it's like a rice. It's like a wheat. It's, in fact, the same thing. But they didn't dig it. They would throw the seeds on the ground, then harvest them, stack them, and come back again. So when we talk about original people, you must understand they farmed the land. They did fire stick farming. They laid down the nardoo, but it was no dig farming. That's very important. People understand that. Now, what happened around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, there was a worldwide trend where farming became part of this, but also other things took place. We started to get people accumulating in cities. Men had stronger shoulders and started to use those shoulders, and disenfranchised women. And once we disenfranchised women, we lost the balance in our society. And from that point on, we had male leaders, we had generals, and we had armies, and we have 6,000 to 7,000 years of a different lifestyle that wasn't here before. Now, the protectors of the older lifestyle, whether they be the Druids, whether they be the Hopi, or whether they be the Midjinbul from here, it didn't matter. They all lived the same style of life. And so what's taken place for the last 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 years is things had to be disenfranchised. Women, magic, creativity, and respect for the earth, because now we fear earth and we compete against it. Those things were lost. And focal and central to that is the link to magic. Because once you sever that link to magic, you to an extent sever yourself from your creator, from the spirits, from the land, and you start to lose contact. And that's when men become more comfortable, is the best way to put it. I'm not going to try and be I'm not going to try and run down men too much, since we're both them. But our understanding is, if you go back and look at the indigenous people from around the world, you'll find that whether it's the Navajo, the Inuit, the Hopi, the original people or others, they all knew that there was going to be this clash of lifestyles, and that their lifestyle would be oppressed and would be abused and would be ignored, which it was. But you've got to remember that the old way of doing things, where you respected nature, was never going to be lost. We just went on a extended holiday and lost our row and lost our way. And what's happened now is that presentation we did in Melbourne was interesting, because what I originally was going to talk about with the prophecies that have been given to us by the elders changed that night, didn't it? And it's changed since again, because the elders have made some public statements about the changes taking place.
Plus, we've had some visits.
And we've had some visits, because one of the things, when I was first approached by this group, I said I wanted to ring one of the elders or come and see me. Well, they did. They did come and see us, and they confirmed what they were saying was correct. And what's interesting is, because you mentioned the word mysticism and magic, When we talk about what comes next, that's what comes back.
Mm.
That's what's been stolen from humanity. And you've got to remember, people have got to understand something, that humans were never the most intelligent hominids off this planet. That's a lie.
Because you look at some of the other hominids, the Neanderthals in their villages had piped
Hot water system 80,000 years ago. Denisovans were making jewelry 70,000 years ago that you would gladly wear today.
Mhm.
And what do you think the Homo sapiens were doing while that was taking place? They were sitting in caves dribbling. They were not up to that level. You've got to remember, a Denisovan and Neanderthal have a skull size of around 1500 cc. Ours is 13. The skull we have is 1700 cc. We have another one, which is
Doctor Who was correct.
Yeah.
He said, I didn't think this was going to work out this way. I thought, you know, the Neanderthals, the poets would, you know, win out, but
no,
the cranky ape man,
one.
crappy, cranky ape man won.
But the trick with this is that
We are a bit cranky.
people have to understand that they're cranky because they've lost their way. But originally, the reason why they were chosen by the Pleiadians is not for their intelligence, because they should have chosen the Denisovans or the Neanderthals or Homo heidelbergensis, which have all got bigger brains. We were chosen because we were the ones that had the magic. Now, what the reptilians and the draconians have made sure is we've lost that magic over the last 6,000 to 7,000 years. You see, that is really what this is actually about. That was stolen office. It was stolen office, and of course the Atlanteans tried to make a world where they could have technology and spirituality together. Well, that didn't come out well, did it?
I think it worked for a little while.
Did.
And
Some rings got involved in that. We've got one of them now, and that caused some problems. But the point we're trying to make here is that all from the very beginning, humanity goes in cycles. We go up and we go down.
Yeah.
And we've had civilizations before far more advanced than ours. This is not the peak of humanity, it's the trough. And during that time, what's actually happened is when we were not heavily involved in technology, we were heavily involved in magic. It's one or the other, but it can never be both. So what's taking place is, at the end of this year, this is the end of this cycle, okay? And at the end of this year, another cycle begins. And that's primarily what the conference is about and what you went to. But what we can add to that is that conference you went to then, we've got more information. And this time, what Evan will be doing is going to read 2 of the statements from them. We can be more specific than I could be on that day because I didn't know I was allowed to be. And we actually rang them, didn't we? And we asked, can we say this stuff? You put it up. He said, yeah, put it up. So the reason this is so important now is because I don't think people realize that the earth is cleansing itself.
Yeah.
It's cleaning itself now. Whether it be the fires in Australia, because that's a form of cleansing, or whether it be a virus, which is another form of cleansing, these are parts of what the earth is doing to clean itself up. You probably know that our North Pole now is no longer in the North Pole. It is in Siberia, making its way towards China, and will be there soon. Now, my understanding is, if what takes place now doesn't happen, then the earth flips and spins around. Now, I'm okay with that in one respect, because humans have really, they've screwed up the place they've rented, they've trashed the place, and they should be evicted. But the animals didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
no, they just did
All of the animals did what nature asked them to do and lived in accord with nature. So my question is, I have no issue with us being wiped out, but why do the animals who are innocent, why should they be wiped out? Well, the elders have given us the answer with this prophecy. Now, the prophecy is very simple. It says on a certain time, on a certain day, which is December the 21st at 9 p.m. in the middle, it's that specific.
Wow.
There'll be a ceremony. One of many, many ceremonies have taken place that culminates in one that takes place at Uluru. Now, what I can say about that, and I'm not saying all of the things that are happening, because for 2 reasons. Number one, to give the whole story up, if we gave it all up now and all the prophecies, if you don't listen to all the facts and information we have to give it context and to give it validity, then it's just a wild claim. So what I would like to do is share with you and your listeners the first part of that prophecy, okay, which is not fully correct, but it's not wrong. It's just this timing sequence would be slightly out of sync, wouldn't it, Evan?
Yeah.
By a million years on one occasion, but that's okay. I mean, who cares about timing?
Linear time is nebulous.
But within it, because probably 3/4, maybe 5/6 of the people who are watching this will probably listen to this, and they won't go and see our conference, and we need to get this information out any way we can. So let me explain to you what I was first told, and I'll add a couple of things to it, some of which we mentioned at the conference and some we didn't. Now, this part we did mention. This started with an elder from Victoria. Now, this particular elder, Brendan Murray, he is the great-great-grandson, would that be right?
Something like that.
Something like that, of the person that John Batman signed the treaty in Victoria with, right? There was a treaty signed, I don't know if you know this, between the original people. Oh, there was one in the whole of Australia.
Wow.
Oh, yes, there was. What Batman agreed to is half of Victoria for the white fellas, half for the black fellas. They signed up on it. And Brendan's great-great-great-grandfather was the person chosen to sign for the Victorian original people. Batman then took that treaty back up to Sydney to say, yes, we can go to Victoria. We have half, they have half. It's all good. They looked at the treaty and burnt it. There is no treaty, but it did exist. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is because the person who passed on information is of that lineage, okay? So it's not just somebody walking down the street that said, I've had a dream and here it is. This was passed on to him by the elders from Uluru. And all of our information comes from there. Anyway, what he said was that the 7 sisters in Australia have met. And we know who they are because they rang us when it happened. 6 are black, 1 is white. And that's the way it should be under Wiradjuri. There has to be a white fella in this because there's no more of this colour business. Anyway, they sung and they called the Pleiadians. Now, the Pleiadians knew when they came here, there would be a time of reckoning when everyone on this planet had to make a decision about whether they stay or left. They knew that was going to happen because this planet is probably unlike any other planet in the cosmos, and it relates to the future of all beings, not just us. So that's why they all have a vested interest in this. Anyway, the story is, which of course is not fully correct, but it is right in general terms. They were coming in a spaceship, and that spaceship had within it the facility to take energy and magnify it. It cannot create energy because the beings that are not from here, that play by the rules, are not allowed to directly interfere. The reptilians and draconians didn't sign up to that particular agreement. They just do what they want.
Yeah.
But the rest stand by that because we have to find our own way through this. They can't cheat, which I agree with. Anyway, they're coming and they're going to be here obviously on the date that's been given because they've put this date up. I was shocked by that, but they've put it up.
Yeah.
We've known of this date for years, but I've never mentioned it. I've just left it because dates and prophecy don't normally go together. Anyway, on that day, there is a device, which I can't go into too much detail, can we? That device can amplify the energy of the beings on this planet, actually in Australia. But if there has to be a certain number, and that number goes into 6 figures. If there aren't the right number of people there that are positive, not fearful, not scared, not worried about their job, not worried about someone making them sick, not worried about everything, which is what this year is going to be about. We told people for years this would happen. If there are enough people, they take that energy and they throw it into Uluru. The energy of Uluru is like a trigger switch. It turns on 5 other sites in Australia, 2 of which we know, 3 we don't. Then it goes across to New Zealand, doesn't it? The Rainbow Ridge, which we didn't know about before.
And then it does.
Then it goes around the world.
Yeah, all the ley lines.
All the ley lines everywhere. Australia, New Zealand first, and the rest follow. Now, when that happens, then the Schumann resonance, which measures the energy of the planet, I'm sure you're aware of it, doesn't stay at 7 and peak to 150 and then go back to 7. It stays at 150 and never drops. Wow. Now, what that means is you've got a vibration now that the Schumann resonance, but it's doing 2 vibrations at exactly the same time. A higher one at 150, 200, and a lower one at 7 or 8, the one we live in right now. What happens is the animals don't get judged on this. They're fine. But each human being on this planet, pardon me, all 7 billion, are drawn towards one of 2 vibrations, higher or lower. And if they're drawn to the lower vibration, they have no choice in this. Their soul will drag them there, even if they know they don't want to go. They don't have an option. Their soul will be their judge, jury, executioner, or partner, whichever one comes. Okay, let's say that you are drawn towards the lower vibration. What then happens? It fades and gets weaker, because you cannot have 2 realities on one physical plane. That will never work. And after a couple of months, you will see these beings, there's many of them, out of the corner of your eye like a shadow, and they'll see us. But we can't, they could be in our house right now, but we will never touch. We're in different vibrations. We're in a different dimension at the same time. It's a bit like quantum physics, where it's actually happening, where it actually comes together in one spot for a period of time. Now, I was told at the time, I said, well, what happens to their souls? And they all told me they would be destroyed. Now, you've got to remember, the people who are telling this were passing this information on from others. That was secondhand information. The first-hand information is those people were wrong. You cannot destroy absolute matter. The reason why they can't come back here is not because they're punished, because if they incarnated, the vibration would be so high, when they were born, they die. It would kill their body. They're not attuned to that higher level of vibration. What has to happen is, for those beings who are not coming back, they go to other planets that are at a lower vibration, like kindergarten again, because they failed. Yeah. They go to another school because this planet is now evolving, the whole planet itself. The animals and beings within it either have to evolve or get out of the way. In fact, that's what the elders said in one of their statements you're reading out. They pretty much said, if you don't like this, get out of the way. We're coming through. He's going to read that later. You don't get that one today, but you have to pay $20 odd to listen to the whole thing. I'm talking about that. But here's the trick. Okay, after a couple of months, we're left with the beings that are evolved and want to work with nature. Now, what I am going to do, and I might have mentioned this on the day, and I'm going to do it again now, because it's very important people understand that a lot of people are going to say, oh, yeah, I'll be there. I'm going to tell you now, at the moment, I'll put it to you this way. When we finish this conversation, by the way, when this guy was talking to the first one, I made him hold rocks to kill. And I told him, these rocks will kill if you lie. He said, you're going to hold them? He said, by all means. I said, if you told me one lie, these rocks will kill you. Well, they didn't. But he did give me a piece of information I find fascinating, and I argued with him about it. And it was this. I said to him, okay, I get the fact there's a change, and I'm starting to believe it. Remember, we've just been told all this stuff. We haven't learnt any of it ourselves. And I said, but I've got a problem. What percentage of beings on this planet will evolve upwards? And he asked me, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I see it like this. I know a lot of people that don't know any of the stuff we're talking about, but they're still good people. They care about other people. They care about their family. They're loving people, and most humans are like that. And I said, I'm going to include them, and I think around about 25 to 30% of the population will go forward. And this was the first time in the whole of our conversation where he smiled. Well, he didn't smile. He laughed at me. I thought, this is a bit different, because I've been quite serious until now, and he was laughing at me. And I thought, okay, I think I got this wrong. And I said, have I gone too low? He said, oh, no. He said, you're way too high. Wow. I said, come down, for God's sake. You're not even close. I said, what? I said, okay, I'll go down to 10%. And he laughed even more. He said, you've got to drop down more. I said, I can't do that. Anyway, the number he gave me was 2 to 3% of the population will evolve, and 98 to 97% will not.
Wow.
Now, I argued the point with him. I argued with him and said, I don't think that's right. I said, well, why not? I said, well, what about, look, I play tennis, and when the skulls tried to kill me and I was nearly dead, they were ringing up each day to find out how I was. And they never questioned the fact I was being cursed. They got that, and they were really concerned about me. And these are good people. He said, yes, but you come here for 2 things. I only got 1. I said, what do you mean 2 things? He said, you come here to love and have compassion, but you also come here to learn. You got to learn why you're here. You came here to learn a lesson. If you're going to be a nice student that's nice to everyone all day long in the classroom, but you don't learn a thing, why'd you come? You come here to learn. I said, why do you think we put evil here? To test you, to make you try hard, for you to be challenged and for you to learn things. If there was no evil here, where would be the point coming? It'd be a lovely visit. When you went back to your mate, you'd say the fish are beautiful, the landscape is fantastic, but what did you learn? Oh, I stubbed my toe one day and it hurt for a little while, but what else did you learn? Nothing. You see, this is really important. We came here to learn. And he told me, if you could have someone who's the most loving being on this planet, we'll give them 49 out of 50 for that. But if they don't know why they're here, they get nothing. So they still fail. He said, it's simple as that. I said, oh, all right then. Okay, fine. All right, I get that. All right, 10%. I'm still sticking with 10%. He said, why? I said, because there's 10% of people who are basically good people and know about this. He said, no, you're wrong. I said, no, I'm not. He said, yes, you are. I said, now I'll give you an example. Of those 10%, do any of those people say bad things about people behind their back? I said, oh, yeah, most of them. I said, why? He said, why do they do that? Isn't that a negative piece of energy? Do you mean we sent them there so they could run around? I said, we don't mind them going to that person's face and saying, I disagree. But going behind their back, what you're doing is creating negative energy and throwing it out there and giving it to other people to create that negative energy. And this person can't defend themselves. What have you learned? You mean you come here to be a gossip? Do you think that's what the Creator sent you to learn how to gossip? I said, no. I said, all right then. I'm down to 5%. He said, no, you're not. You got further to go. He said, okay. Do you know people who get upset by other people and think bad things about them in their head, but they never say it? I said, oh, yeah, I do. He said, well, what's the difference between saying it and thinking it? Creating a thought is an energy bubble. If it's a negative energy bubble, how's that helping the planet right now? Why are you throwing out these, whether you said it or not, did you think it? Yeah. He said, well, by thinking it, you create it. You've given it energy. And we didn't send you here to make negative energy. You were here to be positive all the time. He said, that will be unacceptable too. He said, well, I said to him straight away, I said, looks like I'm going with the other mob. I said, there's no way I'm actually going to make it to this mob. And he said, but remember this, and this is why I'm telling people this is the important part. Yeah. The important part is this, and that's why I'm telling people in case they don't watch our website, but they need to know this anyway. I want to give this away as free information. They said, this is a race to the finishing line. You will be judged on the day of the finishing line, not the days that lead up to it. You can fall over and stumble every day before that. But by the time that day comes, there cannot be any negativity left in your head, whether you say it, whether you think it, or whether you infer it. It's not good enough. We do not need people like that in the planet that evolves. Those people have still got lessons to learn. We pass no judgment on them, except they still have lessons to learn, and those lessons will not be learnt on this planet anymore. So they have to go. And after we did that, I sat there and said, yep, you're right. It's 2 to 3%. I gave up fighting. Now, the reason I'm sharing that with people now is people need to understand. If you wish, you can invest in mainstream and the way they're staggering through this chaos and have no idea what they're doing. Or you can look at this and say they don't know what they're doing. And more to the point, the lifestyle you've been made to live. Now that you've been isolated, some of your lifestyle's improved. And let me give you an example of that. I go and play tennis up in a park up there, and there's a wall there, and I hit against it. I used to go and hit up there before, and I go up there. There's a massive park, about 100 acres. and I'd see one person there. One person. That might be, there's skate ramps there, there's parks, there's walks, there's everything. One person, that's all I'd see there. And I'd hit for an hour and a half and see no one. I go up there now and there are 50 cars parked up there and the parents are out with the kids playing.
Yeah.
They're on the tennis courts playing with each other, and no one's got those machines where you press buttons to look at them anymore, because whenever they went before, mum and dad have dropped the kids there and start pressing their buttons. They're not doing that now. Everyone is learning how to become human again.
That's right.
And Mr. Gates and Mr. Buffett and the releasing of this virus didn't work the way they thought it would. It's actually made people start to become human once more and start to interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And what this is doing indirectly is our 2 to 3% has gone up because of the virus. If the virus wasn't there, people would be doing exactly what they did before, and there'd be no one playing with their children in that park, which is what the park's for, ladies and gentlemen. It's there to go and walk around with. Take your dog there, play with your kids, get some skates and go on the flat part there, throw some balls through the hoops, whatever. Do something in a group, because humans are really herd animals. They need the company of others. If you're a panther, it's cool. You can self-isolate all day long. And I suppose if you're a human artist, it's pretty cool because you self-isolate when you make music or art. But for most of us, we need other people. We're finding it now in a new way. And it's not by doing Facebook, and it's not by pressing buttons. It's by looking at people face to face. So the long and the short of this is, ladies and gentlemen, the pandemic, we were talking about this for years. The elders told us that would come. The economic collapse, we were told that would happen. We were told there'd be warfare this year. But these are all final tests for each person to find out where do they stand. If you want to back mainstream that got you in this met, and remember this, the world is run not by governments. It's run by rich people like Gates, Buffett, Rockefeller, Geddes. They run the world. They run everything. And look what they're trying to do this right now. They're trying to kill half of us. That virus was supposed to wipe out half the population. Gates, Buffett, and Soros are all in a club called the Good Club. And the Good Club has one aim only: depopulation. And now they're doing vaccines. Look out, ladies and gentlemen. Those vaccines are full of death. So for us, for the blackfellas, we laugh at this. We don't care. Because these children playing in the sandpit have just about seen their time out. Now, people have got to remember one thing. You have to remember, if there are not the right number of people in Australia when this ceremony takes place, it doesn't turn on. And if it doesn't turn on, they leave. And it would be like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've said this before, when the whales left and they said, thanks for the fish, and they swam off into the air and left us. It'll be the same thing.
Funny enough, the whales were travelling in the skies in that show too.
Yes, in that show they were travelling too. They got it right. And the trick is this: if that doesn't happen, my elders told me within 3 generations, within 3 years, the earth will finally tilt and the water will go around 3 times and wipe everything out. And that's not fair, because the animals didn't deserve this shit. We did. So this is the best way for the planet, because all the beings that behaved as they should don't get punished. And all the beings, which are all humans, that behaved as they shouldn't, don't get punished. They're not punished. They stop this life, they incarnate, and they start somewhere else because they didn't get it right.
Yeah.
And it's really a beautiful, elegant solution to a problem that no human can solve anymore. It's beyond our capabilities to solve the mess we're in now. Mm-hmm. Our leaders get together and they sit around for days on end and they come away and do nothing. They can't do anything because they don't run the place. It's run by people with money, and those people with money, they don't care. They will survive. They've got their bunkers now. They're ready to go underneath there. And then when everything's washed away, they come out and start again. They don't care. They've done it before. I mean, last time the Greys went up into space. They flew away from us and then got it lost their ability to breathe when they were up there. They got nuked. They forgot about that. And now they're trying to work out how to create their race and clone their race, and they can't do it anymore. In our case, we don't have to do any of this. We just have to make one decision. Whether you believe the system is right and you want to invest in it, then you go with it. And if you believe it's wrong and you want to invest in something better, and that change will be this. I've been told very simply what the change will be. It will be old way. We'll have tribes again. There'll be local communities, and when decisions will be made in a circle sitting around a campfire. And they will be black, and they will be white, and they will be purple, and there'll be every colour that's possible. This will be Wirrachin. Black fella, white fella dreaming all together. And decisions will not be made with money as the first consideration. There will be only one consideration, the mother. If it suits her, if it benefits her, it's approved. If it does not benefit her, it's never approved. That becomes the only deciding factor. And in the indigenous ways, where the spirits were in the land, in the trees, in the birds, in the leaves, you couldn't do anything because they always saw you. In the future, that realization will come into being again. And everything you say, everything you think, you'll be witnessed by others, and they'll know what you said, and they'll know what you've done, and you can't hide from that. So primarily, we believe that, I know it sounds bizarre in many respects, and I'm not downgrading the fact that that is a fair dinkum virus designed to kill Asian men. That was its main objective. It was released, and it does harm people. So does the flu, and it is another flu, and it blows through the air, ladies and gentlemen. You can't hide from it. You can put a mask on if you want. You can stand 1.5 meters away, but you can't stop the wind. It blows anyway. And that's how all flu viruses blow. They go through the wind.
Yeah.
You can't stop them. So this business about I'm going to stand 1.5 meters away from you, well, good luck, because the wind's still moving and so's the air. It'll come to you. And my suggestion with that too, very simply, is this. I watch people who talk about this virus, and they talk about it in hushed tones and fearful tones. What they're actually saying is, please come to me. I'm weak. I can't fight you. Please come and get me. That's what they're doing. You shouldn't do that. We're now in a final stage of our development here. And we have to understand that if we don't make a commitment ourselves to realize what this planet is about and how we should live, we'll be judged this time. And the worst judge you're going to have is not St. Peter or Satan, it's yourself. Because everything you've done is stored in your memory banks, and your soul can access all of it. And your soul will say, this is what you've done, go to the lower vibration, because you cannot vibrate at that higher level. So the story about our archaeology is an ongoing one, because it never stops. And now it's done a full circle. All that stuff we've got now, the skulls we found, the rings we found, all that stuff is part of this. So it's one continuous story. And within, what's April? 8 months, there's a conclusion. And everyone gets to be the conclusion. But the trick is this. I don't know your conclusion. I don't know anyone else's but my own. And my own, I haven't written yet. At the moment, as I stand right now, I won't make it. I've got no chance. So I've got a lot of cleaning up to do in my head. But I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't met many people at the moment anywhere that will make it, because that means that you've actually got to rid yourself of every negative thought. And this year, you've only got to turn the news on for 5 seconds, and there's fear in the air. And you've only got to listen to your politicians, and they're telling you about the fact I've got to take away this personal freedom and that personal freedom and that personal freedom, because there's fear in the air. And no, you've got to keep 1.5 meters away when you're walking, but you can't sit 1.5 meters away, because that would be different. How would it be different? It's the same distance. All that stuff. You've got to look at all this stuff and say to yourself, well, our leaders say it's okay for somebody to cut our hair, but the teachers, it's all right for them to sit in the classroom with the kids who are, I should know because I was a teacher, who are reeking in germs and stuff. That's okay. But walking down the street, no, keep away from each other. That would be dangerous. And people say, what is going on here? What are they doing? Are they making up as they go along? Always have been. Yeah. Always have been. The best part of now is, now we know who the enemy is. It's ourselves. That's the best part. You now know who it is. And now you found out The enemy is the people who make every decision on this planet. They are the ones who made this decision to kill you. And you've got to say to yourself, if that's the way they treat me, should I back them anymore? The answer is no. It's really not a hard decision if you think about it now. I find it funny. Gates made a critique of Donald Trump. And he said that Donald Trump's going to destroy the world because he doesn't want to fund the World Health Organization. I find it amazing that Gates can make a statement about that. But thousands and thousands of posts have gone up saying he's killing everyone on this planet. But he's never made one statement. He's never made one rebuttal or a threat. If someone says that again, or I'm going to prove it's not true. He's never done that. But he's prepared to make a statement when Trump says, I'm going to close down the World Health Organization because I'm not going to fund it. And by the way, the World Health Organization were the last group in the world to call this a pandemic. Everyone else had done it before them. They're dodgy. They're the ones who are pushing the vaccine. So what we're learning now is things are now coming out in the open. If you haven't heard of the fact, they even make jokes about it, comedians make jokes about it, about conspiracy theories. And they always talk about Gates. If you haven't heard that Gates is part of this, then you're living under a rock, seriously. And what that gives you is information you should act on. These are the people that are running the world. Get rid of them. And you get rid of them by walking away from them. And how do you do that? I can tell you which way Gates and Soros, they're all going that way. They're going down to that bottom level. Unfortunately, there are many other Gates and Soroses on this planet, but they don't have the money. But if they did, they do the same thing. So don't think they're unusual, because they are reflective of what a lot of other people would do if they had the same amount of money. And all those people who are saying bad things about people every day, according to the people I've spoken to, they're the same. There's no difference. So primarily, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm saying to everyone is, we've got a job to do. And it's not to get rid of the virus, it's to clean ourselves up. That's the biggest problem each person's got. We have to clean all the negativity. The virus is just reflective. It's a reflection of what the world is like today. We've all got a virus in our head. And this is what it's doing. It's showing us the same thing. That virus in our head, which is also negative, also full of negative thoughts and fear. All those things are in our heads. The virus is just showing us what we are. And what we've got to say to ourselves, I don't fear the virus and I don't fear this negativity. So that's what the elders have told me. Our time is coming, but at the moment, there's not enough people. That 2% equates to, in Australia, I did the figures, it equates to around about 400,000 to 500,000 people. When, before Cook came, we had over 1 million people in this planet, in Australia, to run it properly. We don't have enough yet. It would not run properly at 500,000. We need 1 million people on this planet. So we don't have enough people at the moment. And remember, of that million, I need a 6-figure amount that have no doubt, no negativity in their soul. We don't have them yet. So at the moment, all credit to the reptiles and the draconians, they're still winning. They're still winning. They've got the media, they've got people fearful, they've got people scared. We've had people walk on the other side of the road, haven't we, Evan? Because they've seen us and thought, you could have germs. And when people start doing that, when they don't shake hands and they don't go near one another, that's just what they want.
Yeah.
Because if humans can't make contact with humans and fear other humans, fear is what they want. And when people look at you and say, you could have the germ, you could make me sick, I don't want you near me, they're winning. So that's what this is all about. It's about a change. It's about a chance for everyone to be part of that change or to be apart from that change. Your call.
Wow. That's very interesting. I definitely resonate with the things that you said, because I more or less got the same sort of messages as well, I believe. And it was very interesting that you mentioned New Zealand, part of the Rainbow Bridge, because I had the same knowledge as well. Because I don't know if you know about the Serpent of Light, but it was in Peru, and it's basically needs to travel. I'm not sure. Yeah, to Uluru and settle there for the. Oh, do you? Okay, yeah, that's what I got, and
Yeah.
I did have also a ceremony based on that. So I don't know if I should share more, but yeah.
Yeah. No, look, you'll find that the Indigenous people from the world have been talking about this change for some time. It's not just us.
Yeah.
People in America know this too, and it's not as if we've just made this up. And you've got to remember, the original people have never given a prophecy before. 2012, you didn't hear a word from them. 2000, Y2K, never heard a word from them. All the way through, you've never heard a word from the original people about any prophecy. They've never done that before. And their prophecy is different to other ones because it's Pleiadian. And look, it's a combination. It's the Pleiadians that this particular device, which they call, what do they call it, Evan?
It's like a
magic box. They call it. And by the way, if you think you can go and find it, I can tell you now, don't think it looks like a pirate's chest. It looks nothing like that. That magic box contains things within it that aren't from here, right? And that was given to us by the Pleiadians as a gift. I mean, they seeded the bloody place a long time back. We've got a rock about them seeding this place and creating life here. And the whole, I know it sounds a lot like a couple of different books and TV shows, but I said the one being from off-world, this is an experiment. God, that person got buried about that. It's more than an experiment. It's sort of like, how can I put this? Humans are not human as you think they are. You've got to understand this. You know what a Labrador looks like, don't you?
Yeah.
They've got the same face, haven't they? All Labradors do, don't they?
Yeah.
You know what a fox looks like? You know what a chimp looks like, don't you? And a chimp's got the same face. Do you know what a human looks like? There's 7 billion of them. Can you tell me what a human looks like? You can't. What do they all share? They're the only species on the planet that look so different from one another. All animals are the same size. They move the same way. We can be half a metre, we can be 2.5 metres. We can be 40 kilos, we can be 400 kilos. We can run at 35 Ks, we can run at 1K. Every one of us has a different fingerprint. Every one of them has a different retinal pattern. There is nothing about humans that is the same. Why is that? Because the story we were told was that we came from the same lineage as chimps. Well, you look at chimps, they still look the same. They all walk like John Wayne. They all sound the same. They have the same brown hair. By the way, is there any other animal on the planet that has hair that continually grows and never stops? No, there's none. But humans do it, but we don't think about that. And with a chimp, when we have babies, they've got 3 sutures, and the sutures are separate. And that's how come our brains got bigger. Do you know that all chimps, monkeys, apes, and primates have a sagittal keel? Their brains have never got bigger. So what do we notice about all the other beings on this planet? Well, number one, all zebras look roughly the same. Number 2, all humans don't. That's the only thing we know for sure. But they tell us our mum and dad is the same mum and dad as the chimp. Well, that's not true because all chimps are still the same, but all humans aren't. We have the genes of everything off-world. I'm 4.7% Denisovan. I'm 1/20th not Homo sapien. And I'm called a Homo sapien. Which 1/20th of my genes is Denisovan? I'm hoping it's my brain because there's not much going on with Homo sapiens. My point being that we are a mixture of different things, and this was done for a reason. This was to try and see if there was a way to put all the different species in the cosmos together and find a way they could live happily. It's been a tough job, and it hasn't come out well. It's been chaos. And the problem is that the reptilians and draconians broke the law of this experiment because it was a hands-off experiment. And they accept that. And to an extent, that's why they're helping us, because they fudged. They took over. The royal families and the cabal took over and ran the world. That was not the deal. That wasn't the deal. And their time is coming to an end. And they know they've cheated. But the good news for them is they can keep this place. If they can keep it fearful enough for the whole of this year, they get to keep it. I mean, it'll be trashed, but they'll come back. They don't care. They really don't care. They'll still run the roost. And that means that their way of doing things continues. And really, that's all not up to them. They've got no say in this. We do. Humans as a group, we finally get to have a say in this. And if we vote correctly, if we march in a moratorium like we did in the 60s against the Vietnam War, but do it again this way, and hundreds of thousands march, we win. The whole world changes. And it's got to be the same thing. So to an extent, we were going to spend the rest of this year doing these presentations like the one we did in Melbourne. And we had a full house in Byron, and we couldn't fit any more in Melbourne, that's for sure. Otherwise, we would have been in a lot of trouble. I think we're a bit close on occasions anyway. But we won't talk about that much. We were going to do that for the rest of this year, but now, only because of the coronavirus, now we're going to do it this way. And we may be able to reach more people this way. So there might be a blessing in everything that happens like that, because there's two ways to approach everything. And from our point of view, we've only got one job between now and the end of this year, is to tell as many people as we can, to tell as many other people as they can, to do something we call seed dreaming. It's where you throw the seeds out there. A lot of them don't germinate right away. Some take a long time, but sometimes they do germinate. So this is what we're trying to do. And because people are now questioning authority and questioning the whole system we've got and the way we live, this is the time for people to think about another way of doing things. But we've got one drawback with this, you know, it's all based on faith. We've got no absolute proof. I mean, I can prove it to you after the event. I can say to you then, look, I told you, but here's the trick with this. And I've got to tell you now, if you mob think, look, I'll wait until the spaceship comes, and once it's there, then I'll put my hand up and say, oh yeah, the hippies are right, I want to join them now. No, it doesn't work like that. Before, it's not after. I've got to tell people that you can't sit on the fence this time and say, look, it'd be nice if it happened, but I'll just have a bob each way on this. I'll have a bet on both sides. You can't do that. You have to commit yourself before the 21st of December, 9 p.m, way before. And you've got to say, I get this before that comes, because you don't get a cross in the sky this time. You don't get someone hanging on a cross or someone doing miracles. It's up to you this time, because that's too easy. If someone comes along and does something really clever, everyone says, I'll follow that mob. Whoever that person is, I'm going to follow them now, because they can do miracles. That's the easy way to do it. It's not going to be like that this time.
You know, you could follow the gourd or the sandal, wasn't it?
Well, the gourd or the sandal, yeah. Life of Brian. I would have gone for the gourd, not the sandal. No. Okay. The gourd you can eat. The sandal's useless, man. Yeah. That was the obvious one. Spike Milligan was right when he held that up. Yes. But John Cleese ran off with the sandal, didn't he?
Yep.
Well, this time we've got a choice again. It's the gourd or the sandal. And my suggestion is, don't pick the sandal, go for the gourd. It's rounder, more feminine looking. And don't forget, in the future, and I've got to tell the men this too, and I tell them each time, you do realise when this change comes, there will be no male in any role of leadership on the planet. None. Men will never be allowed to lead again for a long period of time. And by the way, by men, I include people like Margaret Thatcher, Indira Gandhi. I include those women too, because they're not men. They're not women. They're worse than men, because they've taken on all the worst parts of men and killed all the best parts of women. We can't have those sort of beings anymore. We have to have women who create, because in original society...
Yeah, we don't need another Hillary Clinton.
No, we don't need that. If we had a Hillary Clinton, we wouldn't be talking right now. We would be in the Third World War. I mean, that's obvious. She is absolutely... Oh. No wonder they voted for Trump. Oh, they could have voted for Ralph Nader.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, he gets 10% each time. But it has to be women that are creating, nurturing women, caring women. The women that in Greece decided they wouldn't sleep with their men, so the men didn't go to war. We want those sort of women. Women like that says there's no more war on this planet, and there won't be. Warfare will be banned. And people will talk about this in lessons and shake their heads and say, that has got to be the greatest form of stupidity that humans ever showed. They aren't that intelligent. They can't be that intelligent. Because if you look at our history, in the last 6,000 years. And I was a high school teacher, and I did that section, and I did history. It is a story about people who fight against what's wrong and get oppressed when they're alive, or warfare. That's all history is. And it's about two groups: the ones who say it's wrong, who are either killed, martyred, or don't put out their book like Galileo until after they're dead, or the rest of the generals. That's all we've had. And now it's been decided it's gone too far. The planet is now at a state where if this doesn't happen, it will clean itself within 3 years. So either way, people have to make a decision. And if they decide badly, you've got 3 years left. And that's it. If you decide well, then you come back on this planet and you reincarnate on this planet to do things that even we don't fully understand. And I don't even think the aliens that are helping us fully understand what can take place here, because this will be the place where magic will light up again, and it will become the most magical place in the cosmos. And the people here will go back to first language, and first language is not written, it's telepathic. When we communicate telepathically, there's no lies.
Yeah.
You can't lie to yourself. You know when you're telling a lie. And when people go into your mind, they'll know the same thing. So you can trust people again. You see, we can't trust each other anymore. That'll come back. All those things will come back. So that's what the future is about. And this is the first time we get a chance to write it ourselves. We've got two choices. And the best part is I know we're going to choose one of them. One of them is not a good choice.
Yeah. Good choice, bad choice.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I definitely I see the same future as well. But I think one of the important things is that people are really scared of death as well. And I feel like that doesn't exist in the whole scheme of, like as a human. We've been taught to worship death, and be scared of the concept of physically dying. But with all the information that you've brought out, I guess, there's a continual effect of things. So even if you physically die, there is always something to bring your spirit back into basically what is cosmic law, and it does exist, so I do believe that. I think it will be a positive outcome. I don't think it will be. I hope. I really hope.
I think you really summed it up well. This is actually a whole story about fear of death. This is what it's about, because before people could hide from death, and it wouldn't get them because they could manipulate things and arrange a situation where death couldn't get them. They thought they could, but death gets everyone. This thing is in the air and it's around the corner and it's in your room. And that scares the crap out of them, because most people can't cope with death. They're fearful of it and they don't talk about it. When we have social gatherings, rarely do people say, let's all talk about the fact we're all going to die one day. That doesn't come up in social gatherings. It's not something that's normally discussed. Around the campfire with elders of the old way, well, that'll be different. It will be discussed there. But you're right. People don't understand that death is shedding one bus and getting ready to get on another one. That's all it basically is. And you get rid of this body that's worn out and you get a new one. It's no more less than that. People hear that. They say, yeah, I get it. But do they really? I mean, people say, yes, I believe in heaven. I believe in that. I believe in Jesus. I believe in all that stuff. And you look at them, and the more they say it, the more they say it, the more they say it, the more you know, no, you don't really believe. You want to believe in it, but you're not sure. There are so many people who want to believe in an afterlife, but they're not sure. And this is what's been shown up. If you really believe in an afterlife and you know you're going to die, what does it matter which way you die? It's going to happen anyway. I mean, that's the point of it. And you've got to remember that, okay, if you die from the coronavirus, you're already sick in nearly 99, unless you're Asian, unless you're an Asian male, that's different. But for us in Australia today, and I'm not dismissing the fact we have many Asian Australians, for them, I understand why there is a degree of concern. But unless you're in that situation, unless you've got a compromised immune system, get over it. It doesn't mean a thing to you. You're going to get a slight cold. That's all you're going to get. But yeah, we do have to be careful, because those people who are compromised, they are more at risk. But you know what? You are equally compromised with the other flu that comes each year. And last year in China, 4 million people died from that flu. And do you know which ones died? The same people who are going to die from the coronavirus will die from that flu, because it's the same issue. Yes, this one's been manufactured. It's been changed. They've added things to it to make it race specific and stuff like that. They've done things to it, but it still is basically SARS. It's still a flu virus, a more aggressive form of that, but it still works under the same conditions. And really what it comes down to is, if your immune system is compromised, you might die from that. You may die. I know quite a few people die from an oncology unit, but they are all inpatients in there. Anyone that's an inpatient in an oncology unit is waiting there to do one thing: die. That's what they're waiting to do. So we need to get this in perspective. More people last year died from, we're up to 150, 200,000, I think, in the world. Well, there was 4 million in China alone. Come on, by comparison, why aren't we doing the same thing for that flu? What's the difference? They both kill in different ways. This one is a bit more pernicious and a bit more, I think, aggressive in the fact that it attacks the lungs and creates pneumonia. And I've had pneumonia and pleurisy from the skull.
At the same time, yeah.
So I sympathise with the people who had that. And I mean, I was on death's door. In fact, I think twice we all thought I was going to die. So I get that part of it. Don't think I don't sympathise with these people. I've been down that path myself. And it's horrific. I mean, I was coughing for 6 hours straight, non-stop. So pardon me, I get all that, and I'm not making fun of it. But I was quite prepared to die with that, if that's what need to be, and I was going to go that way, because here's the point. We're all going to die. So if you really understood what death was, you would look upon this and say, oh, yeah, there's SARS, there's all these different things, there's AIDS, and now there's another one again. But we didn't shut the world down when AIDS turned up, did we? No, we just kept carrying on. But all of a sudden, for this reason, this time around, it's changed. What about the Spanish flu? They never had the draconian stuff they're doing now, and it killed 24, 25 million. Today, that would be 150 million. Easy, 150 million. And when did that happen? Straight after the First World War. The first time the whole war went to, and then nature punished it straight after. It's sort of a funny link there, isn't it? The first time the whole world went to war, and more people died in the virus that came after the war than before the war. No one ever put that together.
Yeah.
It's funny how these viruses come out at massive times and seminal times in our history. And this one is even more seminal, the last one. So yeah, my message is very simple. It's bad that this virus is around. It's bad that these people, these reptilians, made this virus. But it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's all over. We're in the finishing stretch now. What each person has got to realise is there's tape there, and it's how you hit that tape on the 21st of December. That's so important. If you hit that tape with your chest out, your chin up, and you're running forward boldly, and you believe where you're running, you're cool. 3 days before, you could have been fallen over 3 times. I don't think this is true. But it's how you finish this story. But I can tell you this, if you want to get negative thoughts out of your head, you got to train it a bit. It's not easy, man, because every person on this planet has negative thoughts running through their head every day. So you think this is an easy race to run? Well, it is, because all you got to do is say to yourself, I'm not going to do this anymore. Sounds easy, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, because each day you turn on the news and they hit you with negativity, and you got to stop thinking about it. You got to start saying to yourself, I think I'll watch the news once a week to find out what's going on, but not every day. Yeah. I don't think I can handle that. So really, it's a matter now is there's a race that's going on, but you're the starter, you're the competitor, and you're the only person in this race. All the other mob that are running, man, they're running their own races right now, and whether they get there or not, that's their decision. And right now, it comes down to each person. And can I remind you, if you get to that negative, if you get to that final tape, and you're bitching about someone while you do it, about someone who ripped you off and stole some money off you or said something bad about you, you'll run past the tape, mate, and you won't see it. They would have pulled it away and you would have just kept running in that direction. You wouldn't have stopped because you won't see the tape anymore because you're not running the right race. So to run that race, you got to clean your head out. And good luck, because I'm working on it and I've got a long way to go. And for the rest of you, it won't be any easier than me. And for me, it's bloody hard. I remember when I first heard that, they said, any negative thought in your head, I said, oh no, I'm not going to make it.
Difficult.
I just thought, oh, that's too hard, man. You're asking. We live in such a crappy place. There's so many negative things here. And they said, yeah, that's the challenge. That's what you got to learn. You got to learn how to walk past that crap. And if you keep wallowing in it, then go back to that planet we got for you. We've got another one just like Earth. Not as pretty, but they're still just as screwed up as they are here. Go there and see if you can pick it up there. So no one's being judged by anyone but themselves. And if you fall this time, in fact, I think I'm a less than 50-50 chance of making it. I think I'll be with the mob, the big mob, or we'll be going somewhere else. Where all the stuff we got here, we get again. Oh, Christ. Yeah, you've got to try harder. You've got to try harder, guys. You don't want more of this. We've had enough.
No. Oh, yeah. I think we all, I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with all the stuff that you said, but there are tools that you can use, you know, because the brain, it overpollutes really easily. So I think the best way is always to connect to your heart. So that is always the best way to discern what is true, and, you know, try and get rid of actually, I think the heart is the memory bank of the body. It's not really the brain. So you can access your soul, everything from your heart. So if people focus there, they can and they will transmute all the negative thoughts that they have and influences. And it is about also just focusing on what you want rather than, you know, all the news and blah, blah. So, yeah.
But the heart controls the brain. You've got to remember a computer, like the ones you have there, unless you turn it on and press the buttons, it doesn't go. Nobody has ever proved where thoughts come from. No one has ever proved where thoughts initiate and where they come from. People say it's outside the brain. Sometimes they say it's inside the brain. You have to remember the brain is like a kidney. It's like a heart. It's a tool. But what starts the tool, what gives it life, it's not the brain itself. Your thoughts, your heart is more to do, your intuition, your heart, the flashes you have where I shouldn't do this, but I should do that. That's your brain thinking, but it doesn't come from up here. This is just the receptacle. This is where all the thoughts are put together and gathered and stored. But you don't turn on your brain. You don't, that computer, unless you work the computer doesn't work, right? Who's pressing the buttons on the brain? That's the part you've got to look for, and that comes from the heart. It comes from the soul. It comes from the spirit. The brain just receives that information. If you were to tell the brain from this point on, I will not make a negative thought, and you kept telling it time after time after time, the brain will obey. That's the beauty of this game. The brain is not a willful beast. It's a subservient beast to you. You're the one who's got to program it. And if you keep programming the brain to say, no, I know that guy's a dickhead. I know he's an idiot. What am I going to do to change it? Nothing. Well, why? And then why feed it? When you start doing that, you'll start to program the brain. The brain can be programmed by you. Don't let the brain program you. That won't work for you. Because the brain will just run on automatic and do what it's been doing all the time. It doesn't make independent thoughts. If you want to change your brain's mode of thinking, you tell it to do it. You press the right button. I don't know if the button's delete. I know that the computer's got a delete button. I use that more than anything else. It's got another button that says insert too. So on the computer, I see two buttons there, delete and insert. That's what I'm asking people to do. There's another one that says page up and page down. This is just like my brain. It's no different. I can delete something, I can insert it, I can save it, I can erase it. It's no different. And you can do that. The brain doesn't do it. The brain does what it's told. But once it's got into a pattern, well, that's a bit harder. You got to work a bit harder to get the pattern out. And the problem is that every one of you, I know I've been a school teacher most of my life. Teaching is about one thing only, conditioning. It's not about asking kids to ask questions. They're not allowed to ask questions anymore. They're asked to remember facts they're given, but they're not allowed to ask questions. That's not acceptable. So therefore, what happens is, if you take children from the age of 5 to 18 and you lock them up in an institution where they spend more time with a teacher than they do with their parent, and they're told that your future depends on how well you remember these facts, not how well you ask a question, then very quickly the brain stops asking questions and questioning things because it's told not to. Because you don't get a good mark for saying the content you gave me is wrong. You get a bad mark for that. So you learn very quickly, if you want to succeed, your brain is not allowed to question. And by the time you leave high school, and some go to a university, by the time you get out of all that, they've got you. You're not asking questions anymore now. And that's the drawback for each person. When I say to them, change your programming for your brain, the first thing you're going to say is, give me some concrete facts that I can feed into that brain to convince my brain I can do that. Well, we do that. That's our job. That's why we have the skulls. That's why we have the rings. That's why we have artifacts that don't have metal. It's not on this planet. We do that for you. And that's why we always speak first when we do this, because when we finish with that, our other speakers now can come along and say, well, hey, Kate, we've got this worked out. They were here before. Let's talk about it now. And your brain won't then say, oh, but I wanted pragmatic empirical evidence. We give you that. That's our job in this equation, to give people evidence to say, your story, what you've been told, is wrong. This is the real story. We don't fully understand it all because we're not that bright. None of us are. We've only got a small brain. All the bright ones are gone. We're only left with the dumb hominids, but we know what's wrong and we've got ideas what's right. And that's what the brain's got to be fed. And once you feed that to the brain, and we can do that, we can take away those doubts, then you've got no excuse. Then it's up to you. Because if we can rationally appease that part of your mind that says, I want rational proof, and yes, you know, you've seen our presentations, we have plenty of science. And that's why the government and so many academics attack us ad infinitum, because they know we have facts. If we were just saying, I've channeled this, they'd love it. They'd say, keep channeling, we love that sort of stuff. And don't get me wrong, the first person in the world that made me believe that channeling could be true was Valerie Barrow, because I met her. We both have many times. So until then, this is before Leah, before then I didn't believe in channeling, because anyone can stand there and go, ugh, like that, and then make a noise and then say I'm talking about someone else. But we met Valerie on a personal level, and she can't lie. So therefore, for her to do that means that she absolutely believes it and has been taken over by something within herself, and she's crazy, or it's true. Well, we've met her and she's not crazy. So that was the first time we thought, hang on, channeling can be valid under certain conditions. But remembering this, that a channeler has nothing empirical to hang on to. So it's a tough road. Ours is easy because we can throw things at you and say, okay, we went to the top laboratory in the country, which we did. And we've got an artifact here, and they've told us 24% of it can't be found on the periodic table. It's not on this planet. Well then, what's your answer to that? Well, there isn't one. You go and see Graham Lancaster. He goes around the world. He speaks everywhere. He's considered one of the top scientists on the planet when it comes to this sort of stuff. And what they do is they have an analytical laboratory that analyzes things. That's what they do for a living. They have 38 scientists there, and they're all paid. This is probably one of the most money-making scientific endeavors in the country. Therefore, I use science like that. Our rings were all analyzed by the same machine each time. So people can't say, oh, it was a different lab. No, same one each time. All have been done the same way. So we can do the empirical part. But what you've got to realize, ladies and gentlemen, the empirical leads into and onto the mystical. The mystical is more important. The empirical is a means to an end. And the end in this equation and this story is there's a mysticism that's coming back to this planet. It was always here, then stolen and taken away by beings that should have known better. And they're still trying to the very last day until the 21st of December to hang on to their patch. What you mob have got to do is take it away from them. And all you've got to do is think good thoughts and be positive. It's not a big ask, is it? That's all we want from people. Just those two things. Be good, think good thoughts, Be always positive and don't let negative thoughts invade you. And if you do that, you will be needed on the 21st of December. We need you. We need those people, because without them, well, the animals suffer, and that's not fair. We have to look after the birds. We have to look after the wallabies, the wombats, because they deserve to be here. And what we've got to do is we've got to deserve to be here too. And that's what this is all about. Working out who needs to be here. The ones who want to be here, that's not enough. You have to need to be here. So that's what we're going to try and get, and that's what our presentation's about. And for those who can't afford the $20, which is what it is for 7 or 8 hours. And let me close with one last thing too. If I was going to pick one presentation of the 5 we're doing, it wouldn't be ours. This is a good way to sell your product, by saying don't buy ours and don't ever try this. If I was only going to do one, I would look at the one Lionel Launch puts up on the second day, the one he did.
No, end of the day.
End of the day. We filmed that one, and that is a day where he brings his sacred yidaki, which most people know as a didgeridoo. But can I make a point? Didgeridoo is a style of playing. It's a bit like calling the guitar rock and roll. It doesn't make sense. You're giving an adjective to a noun. It's actually called yidaki or yidiki. There's 2 ways of saying it. He plays 3 times on that. Twice he plays a meditation piece. And then the 3rd time he plays a healing piece. Now I'm going to suggest to people, when he plays the meditation piece, is lay on the floor, turn the volume up, and just shut your eyes and meditate with the group. And when the healing is taking place, sit like they do. And the sound is still coming out. And I can tell you that every person who did the healing, I've done it twice with him, it works. It works better than any medicine I know of. And you'll know when you see when it's up. It goes for an hour and a quarter, and there's one section there between the 1st and 2nd time when he plays the meditation pieces, where there's about a 6-minute piece where he stands between the rocks and nothing happens. It must be the only video where there's nothing for 6 minutes straight. And then he plays again. He plays the meditation piece again. And you'll see the reactions of different people and how they react to it. But what you're dealing with is, what you're getting there is you're going back to how things used to be. We're taking you back in a time tunnel to what it used to be like. The didge was played for dancing, yes, but was played for healing, for meditation, for mysticism, far more important. He plays that style. And what you're going to get from that particular piece, is you may get a healing out. And you may get some really strong meditation with messages that comes from you and through you. And I think it's really important, because of what we're trying to present, that the last word should be original through the yidaki and through an elder, a keeper of the old way. And what he does, he has little conversations in there. And one part I'll share with you, he talks about their weatherman. You know how we've got a guy on TV, or a lady on TV, that does funny things and is a bit quirky, yeah, and tells us about the weather. And he said, we have that too, and they're called ants. And he'll explain to you, when we see an ant carrying a white rock, we know that means it's going to be very hot, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And we're going to need to reflect the heat away, so they put it on the top of their nest. When it's very cold, they get a black rock, and it absorbs heat, so they keep it like that. And when the nests are built up, we know it's going to rain. He said, we work out what's going on because we ask the animals, what's the weather going to be like? And I don't know if you know this, but the animals know about the weather much quicker than we do. And if you know how the animals give that sign, that becomes your new weatherman. So he explains that to you. He'll tell you things like that. And you think to yourself, I think I prefer that weatherman, because that weatherman will never get it wrong. I mean, if it's somebody from a satellite and we've got this guy that's got a PhD in weatherology or whatever it is, they will get it wrong. But the ants, the animals, they know about the weather. The frogs know when the rain's coming. They tell you when it's coming well before anyone else. Those things, we know about that. And we did know about that. Well, he'll talk about that. So he's going to take you back into the old way of doing things. He's going to take you back with your head. Then he's going to do it with your yidaki. He's going to take you back the other way. So that's an extra bonus that you won't get on those webinars, because he's a proper culture man. And if you want, you can go down to this guy in Mornington Peninsula, that's his country, and he'll give you that healing for an hour. And I'm going to tell you now, if you're not well, I'd go to him before I went to any doctor. Jesus, that I could be in trouble with that one. I would go to him as well as going to other doctors. We're going to be careful.
Yep.
I can tell you now that you'll find that what you get from him might be better than what you get out of any vial, any pill, or anything else, because he's healing you from the inside. The other stuff is different. So yeah, look, we've got that as an added bonus, because if we want to talk about the future and what it's like, because the second part of this thing is what comes next, the Yadaki stays. Players like Lionel stay. Healing with sound stays. Those things stay, right? Maybe some of the superbugs and the penicillin, those sort of things, they've probably done their usage here now. There will be new ways of healing in the future, and they'll be much more holistic, and they'll be much more in link with the spirits and in link with the future. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't come to our video, please remember what we've just said. There is a change, and it's entirely up to you where you want to go. I can't make that decision for you. But at the moment, I'm told that 2% of the planet, that's 1/50th of us, are ready to go. It's not enough. We need more. We need a lot more than that. So come and join us. Well, us. I'm not even sure if I'm going to be there. Come and join the ones who do get there, because I've got a feeling the ones who actually stay here will make a better planet than the ones who are leaving. And I think that might be a planet that everyone in the cosmos wants to be a part of. And the strange part is they already are, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're already here. But their time can only ever be with us. They can't lead us. And they're just waiting and hoping that we make the right decision this time. And if we don't, then they're all going to pack up and leave and try another planet, next one on the list, where maybe it'll work there. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about the future of the cosmos. If we get wiped out, well, we deserve it. But they'll manage. They'll find another one. But it's going to put everyone back a bit, because this was supposed to happen here. They'll have to start again somewhere else and hope they get it right this time. They really were hoping we would have found our magic by now. But there's still time. 8 months.
I think so. Yeah.
8 months.
Look, personally, I think that there are a lot of people that are awakening to this, and in my experience as well, I have experienced really supernatural metaphysical things which you wouldn't be able to explain, the possibility of flying and things like that. I mean, we can do it. We can do it. It's in the human template to be able to do really extraordinary things. So I just
absolutely. There's a great story. Let me close with this, because I think we've got to finish soon. But let me close with this. I want to tell a story about a guy called Left Hand Ferguson. He was an elder from around here, and he got the name Left Hand Ferguson because he would put up his left hand. He'd raise people, he'd put them in trees and do all sorts of stuff. And once he was actually being arrested, he put the magistrate who wrote about this and 2 policemen in a tree. And when they got down off the tree, they both had guns. They threw the guns down and ran away from him. He was well known. He was around in the 1940s and 1950s. And there's a great story about what the future's like. And what happened, he was in Lismore, and there was some black kids there. It was in about the 1950s, I think it was, because he was around the 1970s, wasn't he? Because when we sent that dog in and healed that person who was dead on life support and brought him up, it was in about the 70s. That's right, because Yothu Yindi actually met him. And there's some young kids, young Aboriginal kids, that said, we don't believe in this sort of crap. It's all rubbish. This stuff's got no good. He said, really? He said, I'll race you. I'll race you to casino. From Lismore to casino, about 25 k's.
I think you can get there in about half an hour, 25 minutes, something like that.
Okay. He said, I'll run and you drive. And they all laughed at him. Said, man, what are you talking about? You run and we drive. Okay, so they took off. They whizzed off on their machine. They took their car and they drove all the way there, drove the way to casino. And when they got there was Left Hand Ferguson sitting there. Whereas I think he was having something to eat or something. He'd been sitting there for a while. He said, what took you guys so long? I've been here for 20 minutes. He ran through the air. He was called Left Hand Ferguson because he could levitate. He could levitate himself. He wanted to prove to those boys that this, because they all used to call him, not fearful of him, weren't they?
Yeah.
Even in his own tribe, they got fearful of him in the 70s and 60s because they figured, oh my God, what is this? It's devil man. He does all this weird stuff, because a lot of them have been Christianized and they were told that sort of stuff is no good. I can tell you that everyone in that car became a believer after that, because he just, somebody, I know that in the case of Yossi Indy, they had something to do with him, and they said they saw him running past him in the car, in the air. And that was Mandawa Unipingo and others. And I remember Lauren told me that story where they turned up. I don't know whether the left hand turned up in spirit form or if it was still in body form. I'm not sure which. Well, the reason I'm telling you that is the way things used to be, right? That's the way it used to be. I mean, Kano, as you know, you've probably heard stories about that. Kano did magic like that constantly. In fact, so often that I tend to forget some of the things he did. But they're true. They're true. The stuff he did. And left hand did this stuff too. That is the potential that every human on this planet has. And that's what comes next. When we say what comes next in our promo, it's more about what comes next than what happened before, because the future is the past that's come back again. So yeah, those things like running through the air, talking to animals, which Kano obviously does, all those things we can do. We just forgot how to. The story is we won't forget. It'll come back naturally after December the 21st, 9 p.m. 9 p.m. Everyone will say, you were wrong by 12 hours. I don't believe. Never did that happen. You got the timing wrong.
They've been. The timing? What timing is that, by the way? 9 p.m. Uluru time. Oh.
Yeah, Uluru time, because in America it's different, and England it's different, and I'm very clear about that. I'm only saying that because we asked, can we say it? And he said yes, didn't I? I'm still surprised I'm saying stuff like that. Then I thought about this a bit, and I thought, if the original people want to do a ceremony at Uluru, I don't think the government would stop them. No one could. They couldn't stop them doing it. No. That's just one thing they wouldn't stop doing. Even if the government will know they're going to do this, and others will know it. How can you stop the original people? Because they've got the rock back now, right? How can you stop them from doing ceremonies? You can't. I think that's why they're being bold. They're saying, you can't stop us doing this. And you're going to say, oh, it won't happen. Good. We're happy for you to think that. That's fine by us. We don't care. So, no, that's probably one of the reasons they're doing that. So, to an extent, we can thank the virus too, because it wouldn't have come out without that. So my suggestion is, ladies and gentlemen, start cleaning up your own backyard first. And once you do that, then help others. Because we've got 8 months. Yeah. At the end of 8 months, we get to see out what happens next. And if it doesn't happen, I don't care. Because you don't get judged on results in this life. You get judged on how you carry the journey. Mm-hmm. You don't get did you get what you wanted? That doesn't matter. Did you do it the right way? That does matter. So we're just going to do it the right way. And I'm 99% because I'm still the scientist, unfortunately, and I still have that training in me. I'm 99% convinced they're right. And I'm prepared to sacrifice the 1% because honestly, if they're not right, we have no hope. We're done for. Because the mob in control won't give it up. It has to be taken from them. I mean, right now, Gates should be arrested, but he won't be. Soros should be arrested. Buffett should be arrested. All of these people should be arrested. I do know if any of those people went to Russia, they would be immediately arrested. There are warrants out for them, aren't there?
There are.
All of them, for crimes against humanity. There are countries in the world that know who these people are. And of course, that's why the whole world keeps attacking the Russians, because they won't let them in. Yeah. They are not welcome in that country. And they've been told, you turn up at our airport, we'll lock you up and we'll put you in jail for life. So there are people on this planet that know who these beings are, and they know who they are, and now we're all finding out together. So what people have got to say is, okay, they're our leaders. I don't want them. Then, okay, if you don't want them, then lead yourself. Get in a circle, sit with the mob, and have a say, because that's what the future is. We'll go back to councils of 500, like the Greeks started to try and do, when they tried to do the right thing. But the Council of 500 had no women. Did you know that? women were never allowed to vote in Greece. So when we talk about the fact we copy Greek democracy, not if you're a slave, not if you're a woman, you weren't involved. And if you didn't have much property, you weren't allowed to vote either. So let's get all this straight. The old way of doing things is indigenous way, not Greek way. In indigenous way, if you're a singer, a dancer, a craftsman, a hunter, a tracker, you were equal. No one was more than the other. No one got more than anyone else. Everyone was equal. And today we're finding out for the first time ever, the cleaners are ever so important. Without them, we'd be dead. So now the cleaners have got an extra role and more respect than they've ever had before. Because if we don't have cleaners, man, who's going to clean out the boats so we can all get in them again and get germed up once more? We need the cleaners now, and they're going to do dangerous jobs, and we honour them for doing that. So I love that. I love the fact that we're now starting to realise that we need everybody to work properly together. So the change is good. What's taking place that's coming up, it's your decision. Enjoy it. In our case, we'll struggle the best we can, and good luck, because I'm going to tell you now, trying to clean your mind of every negative thought, you're going to have to practice that. If this is like learning a new service, if I'm a tennis player and I was told when you learn a new service, you've got to serve 10,000 times before it becomes natural. That's when tennis players, the top level tennis players, if they change their style, they have to play that new shot 10,000 times before it gets locked into their system. I'm going to tell you, to get the negativity out, you're going to have to learn a brand new serve, and you're going to have to try it 10,000 times before you'll learn how to serve properly. It won't be easy, but I wish you well on the journey, because you need to get on it.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine, you know. I know there's a lot of a little bit of fear there, but I think that ultimately I really do feel that we'll be fine, because you know, even with the Schumann resonance and all that stuff, there is a provable science to show that the earth is actually, you know, she's on her way to proper healing right now.
Oh, she is healing herself, and this is part of it. If the planet can be healed from within with our energy, it will right itself. That'll clean it up. But if we don't give it the energy, then the planet's got no choice, has it? It's asking us now to clean up the mess we made, and it's giving us an opportunity to do that. And it's making it clear, and the elders from all around the countries, all around the world, are saying the same thing. So we've been given the opportunity now to clean up our own mess, to get the bin out, to pick up all the rubbish and put it aside and throw it away. And if we don't do that, the earth will still clean itself, and it will be a beautiful place. And some other species will come up and start take over next, and they'll probably do a better job than we've done. I mean, the reptilians were here way before we were, and they didn't do a great job. But I don't think we've done any better. Seriously, I don't think we've done any better than what they've done. I mean, they're running the show at the moment, but we let them run the show, so we can't blame them.
Yeah, we just need to take
That's the point.
Yeah,
I mean, I was around, I'm much older than you, I can tell, I already know that for sure. I was around in the 60s when hundreds of thousands of people protested, and all of a sudden we got, for a couple of years, we got a government that actually was Whitlam government that tried to work for the people. Gough Whitlam would carry a piece of paper of all the promises he made, and he'd sit in the Senate. When it was passed, he put a line through it, said, I promised that the people, but they've now got it. That's never happened since. There was a time then, during that period of time, when the world rose up and said, what you're doing is wrong. And for a couple of years, we changed slightly. Governments all over the world changed, and then they killed a few leaders here and a few leaders there, and they got control again. And they worked out something. They lost the Vietnam War in the lounge room. So that what they worked out after that is we've got to control the media. They made a mistake at that stage. They didn't control the media, and there was a shot of someone being executed by our side and being shot through the head. And when people saw that, and the young girl running with napalm, burning her skin, those two images, that many people said that is when the war was lost in the TV screens. So what happened was the reptilians woke up to that, and they bought the media completely, owns it all. But we know that now. We know that, and we've got other ways of sharing information. And now the secret's not out anymore. The secret is out. So I wish everyone the best in this year, because it's the biggest year we've ever had on this planet. And all I can say in closing is choose wisely, because if you do, you'll honour that choice for many, many lives to come. Choose poorly, and you've got a lot more schooling to do, and good luck. I wish you well again. And I don't say that any soul is bad. I don't believe there's such a thing as evil as such. It's here for a reason, to test us. But obviously in your case, you need to do a bit more practice. You need to go out to that wall and serve a lot more than 10,000 times, probably a couple of million times, to get your strokes right, because they're not working at the moment. You're not playing well on the court. So it comes down to one or two things. You either learn the new serve and serve well, or you stick with what you've got and play on another court. But it won't be here. It'll be somewhere out there. And I'm going to tell you now, the court will be tattered and frayed, and there'll be people outside fighting each other, and there'll be disagreements and arguments, and the wrong people will be running the place, and it'll be just like it is today. And do you really want more of this? This is the beauty of this. We're seeing now the whole thing's falling apart. Now we know it doesn't work. You don't have an excuse anymore. You can't say, I didn't know. You did know, you just looked the other way. And that's the beauty of what we've got now. We've got a situation 100 years ago. A lot of people could rightly say, I didn't know what was going on. And you could say, well, no, you didn't. How can I judge you for making a poor decision when you were poorly informed? Well, now, if the hippies are right, you've all said they're shitheads and they're idiots and they're fools and all this sort of stuff. You've made those comments, but you made those comments yourself on your own judgment. What the hippies didn't have is you knew what was wrong, but they didn't know what right was. They didn't have a guiding principle, but they knew what was mistaken. So I give them credit for that, because they knew that what we had was wrong. They just didn't know what we could do that could make it better. Well, now we do. We fix it ourselves. All you got to do is basically clean your head up, clean your soul up, and clean your psyche up in the next 8 months, and make sure that when you start thinking about somebody that comes towards you that does something that annoys you, think about the fact that if I get annoyed about that and I get angry about that, who suffers? Not the person who's an idiot. You got to remember, in original society, if I took someone on the country and they did something wrong on country, they don't get punished. I do, because I should have known better. It's the same with them. Now you know better. And if you don't do the right thing, well, then you get punished because you went on the country and you did the wrong thing. We are on sacred country. This planet is one massive magic ball of energy. And the energy and the magic is now really resonating. Your decision where you stand. You can get off, and there's plenty of room, or you can stay on. But to stay on, you got to change. And that's about it.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Yeah. Yeah, that was really good. That synced up with a lot of synchronicities with me as well. So thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. We're doing a few of these. We're doing about 8 or 9 of these over the next few days. Some from before, and we've got a few more to do coming up. We're going over these a fair bit too. So we're trying to spread this everywhere we can, and trying to get people to actually watch this video, because if they do, then others watch it.
Yeah.
They can be convinced empirically that there's something that's wrong. And that's really the purpose of this. We have the facts.
Yeah.
We have the empirical evidence, and we've got so much of it over 10 years now that everyone in this country knows about. The government knows what we've got. They all know who we are. We have our own. I've got my own ASIO agent. I've had him now for 2 years, haven't I? I know where he lives. I know his name. I know what he looks like. And some of my people have actually spoken to him. And he knows who we are. And he was told once, somebody wrote back and told me, his job's simple. He said he wants to lock you up and throw the key away. So yeah, I hold nothing against that person. I don't hate him. I don't dislike him. I just feel like he's lost.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are. But the beauty of it is he's still got for 8 months. He's still got 8 months to join the race and hit the finishing tape. We still do. Yeah. I mean, everyone here has got the same deal. It's how you finish the race, not how you started. So it's over to everyone, no matter what you did yesterday and the day before. You've still got 8 months to improve on that. And if you can come out of 8 months and you're never angry, you're not fighting anyone, and you're not hateful or resentful, you're sweet. It's not hard. In other words, just get rid of negative energy. That's all it is. And if you can't do that now, off you go. Go somewhere else and try again. You'll get it right eventually.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no need for that in the new Earth. Yeah.
No, won't fit. Won't fit.
No.
All good. All right.
All right.
We're going to go have some lunch now. Thank
you.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for asking.
To you guys. And I definitely recommend your work, your conference, because I'm going to be there. I'm going to subscribe definitely. But yeah, it really helped me in aligning to my path. So I definitely recommend it. And
well, if you can recommend it to others too, because this is our only way now of trying to get people to realise it's a change. And what we managed to do is the other speakers we chose. They didn't approach us. We went and got what we thought was the best in Australia in each area. So we're very specific about that, because we figured, okay, if we're going to make this a strong presentation, and it's got better each time. The one we're going to do now will be better than the one we did in Melbourne, because we've got more we can add to it each time. But we chose the best we could because we had to honour this message. So each of the people we've got has got a different part of this story. And if you put it all together, and you finish with Lionel on the second day, you get a bit of an idea.
Day. It's one day.
Oh, it's all one day, sorry.
It's all one day.
It's all one day, yeah, correct. Yeah, but they've got a week to watch it.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, because
you don't have to watch it all at once.
No, I wouldn't do that. No.
All right.
So far today I've said I wouldn't watch it all at once and watch Lionel before us.
Best salesman ever.
Yeah, right. I've told everyone bar us. Okay, it's good.
Yeah,
it's all good. Yeah, look, thanks for doing that, and thanks for going to the trouble to put this up. We appreciate it, and the fact that you can get it to other people, we appreciate that too. So
yeah,
we're in your gratitude.
Yeah, however we can help each other, really.
Good on you.
At that stage. Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
We will.
Yeah. It was nice to chat with you. Hopefully we can do something like this again, and I'll definitely be at the conference with Mel as well. Sorry, she wasn't here today, but yeah, with Mel. All right.
No worries.
Bye.
No, it was good fun. Enjoyed it.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, for sure.
Look after yourself and stay well.
Yeah, you too. Thank you. Bye.